Space. Galaxies, the solar systems, planets, and bright, beautiful stars. Space has become a popular setting for our imagination. We point our telescope to the sky and imagine the limitless possibilities, like transforming beings in primes, tales of a Superman crashing down on Earth and living among the people. Even in our music, songs about going our separate ways and life on Mars. Some guy called George shook the industry with Star Wars, spawning books, shows, games, and 6 movies. Just 6. Focusing our scope to anime, we see human-piloted space mechs seen in the iconic Gundam, which I would like to say, I've tried getting into Gundam, but I'm scared to start since I don't know when it'll stop. Some of the best animation ever belongs to Gurren Lagann, and from what I've heard, Legend of the Galactic Heroes is a must-watch because of its plot and characters. Ask any Hispanic that's 30 or older about Saint Seiya and watch them return to their childhood. Even Dragon Ball, which once started as an Easter egg hunt martial arts tournament wrapped in a Sun Wukong reference, evolved into a race of alien warriors. Limitless potential and wonder. But as we see the bright stars, we can also see the dark void that occupies the space between them. The possibility for limitless dangers and horrors. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and overpriced figurines and paints. Warhammer. If I speak about 2% of the lore and story, this video will be 8 hours. All you need to know is that it's super fucked. Pull the plug on the Emperor and salamanders are the goats. Some imagine a universe that isn't completely fucked, but that we are not alone. And that is a horrifying thing. Xenomorphs are something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I don't even have a worst enemy, but for the sake of this example, fuck you, Byron. If it isn't a xenomorph, then it will be a necromorph. I was 10 years old when I was introduced to Dead Space. I can vividly remember that was the first time I stayed up all night. Going back to anime and manga, Terraformers sees us encounter super cockroaches, which I can't decide if these things creep me out or has me questioning Japan's race relations. Other dangers can destroy entire planets like Galactus and his Silver Surfer. For every story showing how amazing the human will is and its innovation, there is also a cautionary tale of danger. That in hopes of avoiding extinction by our own hands, we simply place it in the hands of something else in the cosmos. Even the FromSoft games, no matter Demon Souls, Bloodborne, or now Elden Ring, all go back to eldritch horrors, and I'm pretty sure Cthulhu's in the new Doom game. But indeed, the phrase to infinity and beyond can really be as horrifying as it is inspiring. The fear of the unknown, no matter if it's on our own planet or elsewhere, is a playground for our minds to create so much. But what if the real danger of space isn't world-eating beings and man-hunting aliens, if not something else entirely? This brings me to one of my favorite manga, not just space manga, made by the same mangaka of Vinland Saga, Makoto Yukimura. Planets. I'm pretty sure it's planets. Fun fact, this series would actually inspire the author of Attack on Titan, Isayama. But the inspiration for this story, when it comes to Yukimura, was Arthur C. Clarke, a major inspiration while writing this. Arthur was known for his science fiction works and co-wrote one of the most influential films, 2001 Space Odyssey, which was made back in 1968. Clarke's works overall were big on imagining the future and how we as people would react when faced with things that shattered our current beliefs. While Planets addresses this in part, I do not want to mislead and say it is the central focus of the story, but if not, the lifestyle of space and how certain characters choose to live in space can be seen as an exacerbation of real present-day issues. Think WALL-E without the fat people. Planets is a sci-fi manga following characters that are a part of a trash collecting group, and they get caught up in dealing with more serious issues, including a space terrorist group. While focusing on different characters at times, the story all comes back around a central theme. In this time period, some people have even been born on the moon known as Lunarians, and many from Earth find their home amongst the stars. While collecting trash, one of the members of the crew seems to be spacing out often, a man by the name of Yuri. One of the other members, Hachimaki, who wishes to get his own ship one day, describes Yuri as such. I've known Yuri for about 2 years. I've never heard him complain, not once. Strange guy, very quiet. Whenever we're not working, he just zones out, stares into space. Literally. We get paid leave, but he never takes it. Conversing with another spaceman repairing the ship, he's informed that Yuri was once married about 6 years ago, the same time that a horrible space liner crash happened, retiring that model. When it got caught in a debris storm, Yuri and his wife were on it. The cabin got ripped apart, but Yuri, the lucky little devil, was in the back. They never found his wife. Her body could still be floating out here somewhere. On a future mission, Yuri once again seems distracted, his mind elsewhere in the vast void, but Yuri amongst the debris storm found it. What he has been searching for 6 years, a compass. Getting hit and knocked unconscious, he begins to fall, almost reaching the atmosphere, but is saved by Hachimaki, and opening the compass, he sees what was written inside. Please save Yuri. At the time of the crash, she must have hoped that anyone would save her husband. 6 years later, and her wish has come true. Years of collecting debris from space, Yuri leaves one thing out there for his wife. A lily, a singular flower. Maybe it will find its way to her the way the compass made its way to him. For only 26 chapters, this manga does an impressive job of showing the growth of the characters. As just 3 chapters later, we see how far Yuri has come from the state we first met him in. Visiting Hachimaki's family, his younger brother Kyotaro is working on rocket prototypes, but an accident causes the destruction of the beloved compass. Yuri for a moment seems like he's about to lose his composure, but then says everything is okay. Later, the kid is told about the importance of the compass by his brother and rushes to apologize. Yuri speaks on his journey, one many of us partake in, to find peace and meaning. I was young, confused, didn't know what to do with myself. My mind was just swimming. I couldn't figure out anything, who I was, what I wanted, all of the stupid stuff you get obsessed about when the whole world is open to you. What's good and evil? What's dedication? What's duty? Real chicken and egg type philosophical conundrums. Where does space end and Earth begin? You know, I was searching for the truth. I walked a lot. I was wandering around aimlessly until I knew what it was I wanted. Pretty freaky, don't you think? Well, I held on to all these questions. I was going to get some concrete answers. One day I was hiking through the North American plains, and I got up to this ridge that looked down on a beautiful Calais. And this ancient Native American was there, sitting cross-legged in front of a fire. I asked him my questions, but he laughed at them. Kyotaro? Where is the border between the Earth and space? My life has shown me that there isn't one. There is no boundary. The universe is a whole, the things in it separated only by a lack of understanding. Now I've let go of my questions. I told myself that when I found it, I would leave outer space. Her compass kept me up there. But the old man was right. The clarity I'm searching for does not, indeed, exist. Outer space, Earth, their names. One is no different than the other. And so, thank you for breaking the compass. Yuri was able to find closure from the tragedy that struck his life, coming to terms with what happened, but also what he does not understand. I find this to be an interesting choice that the series seems to provide a perspective from a character that has found some closure this early on. It's powerful, but I understand why the anime decided to take a slightly different direction when presenting the order of events, as it is overlapping with what could be seen as the main character for the majority of the story. But I can see it as a contrast for those that aren't in space in search of something tangible like Yuri. Others go to space to find freedom, fulfillment, purpose. Something that will give them what they think they cannot find on Earth. To the point where not being able to live as an astronaut pushes an old man to take his own life amongst the stars. What could be seen as the main character of the story, Hachimaki, is someone who we see has to learn a lot, believing that space will bring him a sense of self. Training a rookie, he gives her 3 rules. Step 1, forget everything you already know. It's useless. Humans have crawled on the ground for 4 million years. The narrow-minded believe we cannot survive without gravity. They're scared. The kind of received wisdom creates pointless boundaries. Step 2, gravity does not exist. Gravity limits your world. Step 3, forget that you're from Earth, Tanabe. That's all. Let's start. Hachimaki has to train his replacement since his goal is to go on a mission that will embark to Jupiter. This chapter and the next few will show the extent of his desire to get his own ship, believing there is no wall, no boundaries for human beings. Those are just excuses for those that couldn't accomplish their original goal. While this mindset, I'm sure, has pushed many to great heights, there is a flaw that can occur when this consumes a person. Their goal, their desire to be completely free and independent, beats everything else. Abandon anything that roots you in the sentimental. Your family, your home, even Earth. Give your soul to space, now. It's worth it. If you don't, you'll never thirst for the second cosmic velocity. Tanabe responds, You know, some of us like love. The two then have a huge argument once finding the coffin of a man and getting in contact with the family. Hachimaki wishes to send the body further into space as the man's wishes, but Tanabe refuses, believing it's a selfish decision that will only cost the family that is still living too much money. Hachimaki once again makes it clear that he believes love and attachments are pointless and only hold back those who wish to achieve bigger things. Tanabe presents an interesting thought. If we live alone and we die alone, what's the point of living in the first place? Space is too big for that. See, while many stories present the idea of planet-destroying beings, things out there that will destroy the floor on which we stand, the fear of not being the only thing in the universe, Planets, through the experiences of the characters, in particular with what we see with Hachimaki, presents a far more grounded fear, a realistic danger, the real danger of space. That in this grand and endless vastness, there are no aliens, there is no heaven, there are no gods, there is nothing but us. We are completely Space is cruel and cold, at approximately minus 454.81 Fahrenheit and minus 270 degrees Celsius. However, because of the lack of air, according to NASA, space makes for a poor heat conductor. So if you were in space and lost your helmet, your bodily fluids would begin to slowly boil and evaporate. Do not make the mistake of trying to hold in your breath either. The pressure change would cause your lungs to burst in your chest. Air expanding in your ears will cause deafness. Now thankfully, you would lose consciousness quickly, but imagine you didn't have a crew around. Your body would simply float away in space, separated from everything and everyone. Even without such a horrid catastrophe, being confined in a suit or in a shuttle, you are isolated and separated from everything else. I know some of the training for astronauts is super crazy, but to me the idea of being confined on a ship for months at a time with a few people in space sounds like the most miserable experience. Physically confined, but mentally left to contemplate the void which you were looking at directly and can't ignore. Hachimaki deals with this later in the series, to the point where even sex is uninteresting to him, broken by the vastness of space. Before that, he is still hell-bent on joining the team that will embark to Jupiter, believing that he will need to abandon his humanity to achieve new heights and be the next progression of human existence. Not everyone will agree with me on this, I know that, but hidden deep within everyone is the power to create and destroy. And those that tap into that power are the ones who will lead the way into space. At least that's what I believe. Up to this point, one might think he is simply super driven. And those were my thoughts also in the first read. But after a bomb goes off by a terrorist group trying to prevent humanity from going further into space, just to make the same mistakes they did on Earth, Hachimaki simply goes to a bar, despite being right there in the heart of the disaster. When questioned, his answer comes off as incredibly heartless. Tanabe once again confronts him and the innate human ability to care for others. As Hachimaki admitted earlier, Tanabe is invading his space, and he can't stop her. Still, he is determined to be on his own. His insecurity, loneliness, pain, regret, to share them with no one. He doesn't need anyone, and soon enough, he won't need the apparition he has been speaking with. Figuring out the bomb was planted by Hakimu, one of the people that is trying out for the Jupiter trip, he corners him and is ready to shoot. Hakimu even says that Hachimaki has space in his eyes. The second you pull that trigger, you'll be reborn. You'll be a creature unhampered by the moral restraints of humanity. You'll surrender away love, passion, your dreams. You'll be truly free. You're right, I'll be utterly alone. But space is the only friend I need. Tanabe tries to snap Hachimaki out of it. If you fire that gun, Hachi, you'll die with him. Hachi mocks how it's always about love and compassion, and that he doesn't need to be saved from himself. What a convenient excuse for getting nothing accomplished. Cowards, idiots, traitors, and goddamn fools. They can all be forgiven with love. Hachi goes to take his shot and Tanabe stops him with a kiss. Stopping Hachimaki, and with Hakimu witnessing this, the terrorist attacks stop as well. A black ocean of emptiness. Carrying a man on his back, Hachimaki walks on the surface of the moon. Two lost souls with nothing around them and no help in sight. I've been carrying my co-pilot Leonov. We were on a training excursion, piloting a ship very similar to the Von Braun. We plan to orbit the moon 8 times. That was the plan. Earlier, Leonov speaks of how he dumped his girlfriend and wishes to be far, far away from Earth. Shortly after, the plane crashes and Leonov is severely injured. Hachimaki asks if Leonov wants anything in his will in case the worst happens. I'm so far 380,000 kilometers from Earth. I can't die here. They only have 10 hours of oxygen if they breathe calmly, so now carrying his partner on his back, Hachimaki walks, focusing, one foot in front of the other, trying to be relentless. But the thoughts of Tanabe are making it difficult. With 3 hours left, Leonov says he won't make it, and he apologizes to his mother that he abandoned for space. Furious, Hachimaki calls him a coward, and that he should have stayed home, screaming that he regrets nothing and will fight alone until the end. With no more strength to carry on, the two collapse, and with no hope left in sight, it seems bleak. Until a ship appears and Tanabe calls out again. In a rage-filled defiance, Hachimaki screams at her to leave, but breaks down into tears, asking for her and the others to please save him. He's still alive. His mother's waiting for him to come home. Hachimaki eventually does go on the expedition to Jupiter, but by then, he's a very changed man, marrying Tanabe. Hachi even reflects on the nature of rockets themselves after his younger brother says, "A rocket's only good if it doesn't come down. Mine aren't that good." Quote, "They're so simple. Rockets. They head in one direction at a constant speed with one purpose. So brave, so beautiful, driven only by the will to escape. Such a sad existence. Space is too dangerous and too wonderful to face alone. But as stated earlier, space and Earth, where does one end and the other begin? There are no boundaries. So the same that applies to space applies here on Earth. It is far too dangerous and wonderful to face alone." On the expedition to Jupiter with Tanabe waiting back home, Hachi delivers a message. "This is the longest journey I've ever been on. It took a year and a half to get here. During this past year and a half, I had a lot of free time, a lot of time to think. And tonight, I'm going to share a few of those thoughts with you. Before I became a member of this ship, I was a debris collector. My job was to pick up trash in space. I worked with some great people, but I didn't like my job that much. It was hard, dangerous work. Most of the time we were understaffed, and it was the absolute least cool job you could possibly have. I kept telling myself that I was only doing it temporarily, just to save up a little money. When I saved enough, I was going to buy my own spaceship, and then I was just going to explore. I was going to take that ship everywhere. I was finally gonna feel real freedom. I knew I had to work really, really hard to buy a spaceship. I knew that I had to be really, really serious about it. So I decided to give up everything else in my life and focus on making and saving money. Nothing else mattered to me more than being free in space. But I learned that I couldn't stop loving people. I don't know if that's good or bad. All I know is that love has a strong power. Way more powerful than nuclear fusion. And I know that every human has it. That's amazing. And a little scary. I'd like to learn how to use this power. So, once I return to Earth, I'm going back to being a trash man. I didn't like it at the time, but it was a really good job. Yuri, Fee, I'll be back in 5 years. Please let me join your team again. Jupiter out.